Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans, the best damn movie-related show on the internet. My name is John Campy. I'm the editor-in-chief over here at AMC Movie News, and this is our daily movie show, giving you all the latest movie news with insight into what it means and gives you a little bit of context into each and every story. Our goal here is to make sure out of all your friends, you know more about what's going on in the world of movies than anybody else, so you can be a jerk to them. I mean, that's the idea. Sitting right immediately to my right, she is AMC's own Miss Chris Lee Kennedy. Chris Lee.
Hey, guys.
Also sitting next to her is the associate editor of AMC Movie News, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach.
Hey, guys.
So let's get started.
You could forgive the execs over at Warner Brothers if they were a little nervous about Man of Steel before it opened. Their previous Superman film, Superman Returns, lost the studio nearly $100 million.
Ouch.
An amount that still stings. However, Man of Steel has been a different story already, making the studio over $100 million in profits, with more to come. With that success, a lot of people have been talking about not only Man of Steel 2, but also the possibility of a Krypton prequel. Academy Award-winning actor Russell Crowe took to his Twitter the other day and wrote this: "A lot of you are asking about a Krypton prequel. If that's something you feel strongly about, let @Legendary Pictures know your thoughts." He said. He added in response to someone, "Just getting sick of reading the same question, mate. However, if it came up, I'd give the tights another go." John, what do you think the chances are for a Krypton movie, and would you want to see it?
Well, I mean, if you'd asked us the week before Man of Steel opened, hey, do you think there could ever be a Krypton prequel? Absolutely zero. Absolutely no chance. Now, you've got a film that's clearly going to be a major franchise. It's already made in the profit areas of over $100 million for the studio. 10%. It's still pretty low. Let's face it. Krypton, in the grand scheme of things, Krypton is a footnote in the story of Superman. Superman doesn't even have memories of Krypton. I mean, he left when he was basically a newborn. It's just for us, Krypton is basically for us setting the context of who Superman is, but the story of Superman is not about Krypton. Also, I don't want to see it really, because number one, I really don't like prequels. But even if you were to say, go 1,000 years into the past, and do a story about Krypton like 1,000 years ago, so you don't know what happens to each and every character, then it's just another sci-fi movie, because they're on their own planet, so they don't have superpowers. So now that movie could be about any alien race, any alien civilization. It doesn't have to have anything to do with Superman or be called Krypton. So personally, while I love Russell Crowe, and I love the job he did as Jor-El, and I hope they find a way somehow to use him again moving forward, not only do I think there's a very good chance for this, oddly enough, as much as I love Man of Steel, my favorite film of the year so far, I don't even think I'd want to see it. That's just my feelings on it personally. Amy Rose, what do you think about it?
I feel a little differently about prequels. I think if, we love a story so much and there's really nowhere to go up. We just talked about this on our mailbag show this weekend for Cabin in the Woods. While they're really, it kind of ended perfectly in my opinion, that film, but, a prequel with how all this crazy world, beyond our perceptions at the time came to be and all that. I think prequels can work if they're done right. Monsters University, I thought that was a really cute prequel. I mean, there's a lot of examples of that do work, but in general, sure, sometimes they're reaching, but a lot of times I do think it works. In this case, I really like Snyder's Krypton. I thought what we saw was beautiful and interesting and great, and
it was.
It really showed the world that I wanted to see. So I thought they did a great job, but I also agree that I'd rather see the story continue. I'd rather see Clark Kent, because we didn't really get to see him. We got to see Superman before he really immersed himself in this world that we know, and kind of see the Daily Planet and all of that evolve, and maybe Lex Luthor and some of the other awesome villains that we're going to get to know. So I personally would rather see the story continue. A prequel might work, but like you said, the most fascinating part about The Last Son of Krypton to me is what happens from here after. So it could work, but I'd rather see them continue with the story and do Man of Steel 2, but with a different title. Let's not call it Man of Steel 2.
Why not? I don't understand. Director James Cameron is currently busy ramping up production on his two sequels, Avatar 2 and Avatar 3, which will probably drop in 2015 and 2016, respectively. However, that doesn't mean Cameron isn't already looking into the future. At a recent recent event in Mexico City, Cameron talked briefly about getting his gestating project a live-action Battle Angel movie based on the Magna comic and anime movies. Cameron told the audience that its themes of transhuman exploration has haunted him for years, and that he most likely will start developing the film sometime in 2017. John, would you be excited for James Cameron Battle Angel?
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, I'm one of these guys who I wanted him to ditch Avatar 2 and 3, and I wanted him to do Battle Angel first. For those of you who don't know much about Battle Angel, and there's no reason why you would know a lot about it, but for those of you who don't, it's basically set in a post-apocalyptic future, and where this, scientist dude finds this android chick half ripped apart, and it's just like her head and her chest are left, and he kind of fixes her up. She has total amnesia, doesn't know her life before, but she remembers she's like Neo in the Matrix. She knows Kung Fu. And she basically becomes this badass warrior chick. It's a really fascinating story. It's really quite cool. And I think the vision of James Cameron is a perfect fit for a story like this. My only negative feelings about this is that he's going to wait to 2017. Screw Avatar 2 and 3. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited about those films too, but I was really looking. He's been talking Battle Angel for like 5 years. He's been talking about Battle Angel for a really long time. I want to see it done, so yay, it's coming. Boo, it's in 2017. Amy Rose?
Yeah, I actually don't know as much about the Battle Angel story, but from what you just said, I'm in. I love sci-fi, I love post-apocalypse, but I do know a lot about James Cameron. And look at all the amazing world and creatures that he has created, from The Abyss to Avatar to Terminator to Aliens. It just goes on and on and on. Whether he wrote and created or directed it and was behind the helm, I just think he has more than proven that he can bring these really immersive, in-depth, crazy worlds to life right before our very eyes, and he's always been so ahead of his time with filmmaking. I mean, Avatar once again set the stage for hire, the way he shot it, and it's just, I remember the first time I saw a couple clips, and I felt like I was in the forest with them. I mean, there's butterflies flying, but it was so beautiful and amazing and enchanting, and I am looking forward to seeing the Avatar story more visually. I mean, it's Ferngully the Lost Rainforest. It's so many other films we've seen before, but for what he does as, a filmmaker and visually, I am excited to see it. And from what you just described to me, this sounds really cool. So
everybody wants to talk about Avatar, and rightly so. They want to talk about Terminator. To me, the quintessential James Cameron movie that I will always fall back to is my all-time favorite James Cameron movie.
True Lies?
True Lies,
yep.
baby.
Such a great film.
I love True Lies.
All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show for Buy and Sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Chris Lee's got a bunch of other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down, and Amy Rose and I are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Chris Lee, what do we got?
As many of you know, actor Ryan Reynolds has been trying now for years to get a standalone Deadpool movie off the ground, ever since his work on X-Men Origins Wolverine back in 2009. The idea was to have it directed by Tim Miller on a script written by Zombieland writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. Reynolds was recently asked about the status of the project again and said the following: "That movie is alive and kicking, and then it's dead as a doornail. Then it's alive and kicking, and then it's dead. It's like the worst relationship I've ever had. The character knows he's a comic book character. He knows he's in a film. He knows who the executives are at the studio making the movie. In the current iteration of the script, Deadpool is aware of the Wolverine movie. He doesn't say anything disparaging about it, but he does at one point play with the Deadpool action figure with some curiosity." Amy Rose, buy or sell Reynolds' description of his Deadpool movie?
Huh. I'm gonna buy it. At first when you read that, I was like, huh. But at the same time, I think it could be a really fresh and interesting take about it. It kind of reminds me of Encino Man, and what was that other action hero movie when he came? Like Kate and Leopold, basically all these characters. Yeah, Kate coming from the past or like whatever, and like joining this world and it being so bizarre. And like, I think that it could be interesting. And I mean, he's a super sarcastic, like smart ass, great character, and Ryan Reynolds, I think in this context, would really make it shine.
I'm going to sell the description. Now, we all know that the merc with a mouth breaks the fourth wall all the time, and we get that. But there has to be an element of campiness to a Deadpool movie. Ultra-violent campiness. There has to be that, absolutely. But just because you want an element of that, this sounds maybe like it takes over a little too much. I'm not thrilled, because all he's talking about is the campiness. I don't want an all campy Deadpool. I want a Deadpool with a firm element of campiness, but a lot of badassery too.
I want the violence.
So I'm not really. Well, I want a Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. I really do. I just don't know that I love this particular description of it. Hopefully, they're still working on it.
It's campy.
For me, but so for me, it's a sell.
Was it playing with the action figure that gave it away?
I think maybe talking about Wolverine, one of the two.
Well, yeah.
This 4th of July weekend gave us 2 very different stories at the box office. One story is a very happy story, and that's the story of Universal's Despicable Me 2. The film that was reportedly produced for $76 million took in over $142 million since it opened on the 4th, with $82 million on the weekend alone. Good times over at Universal. The second story is a very sad story, and that's the story of Disney's The Lone Ranger. The film was reportedly produced for over $250 million.
So sad.
And has only made $49 million since it opened. I'm shedding a tear for them. And just $29 million of that this weekend. John, buy or sell these weekend box office results?
I have to buy them for 2 reasons. Number 1, because of Despicable Me. Despicable Me 2 is delightful. I adored that movie. It's so fun. You know, Disney, they didn't just get it right. Not Disney, I'm sorry. Universal didn't just get it right with Gru, who's a great lead character. Gru's a wonderful character, and his interaction with the little girls, precious. But then they tripped over, I think they accidentally tripped over this gold mine in the Minions. Because the Minions are fantastic in this movie, and of course we know the Minions have their own standalone movie coming next year. So they gold mine all around, everybody went out to see it, yay. I also buy the results that the Lone Ranger is seeing. I have had my questions about this movie, and look, I'll say it again, I've said it before, the moment they cast a wonder-bred white boy, Johnny Depp, as Tonto, look, I love Disney. I love Disney. I think they're awesome. I love so many of their films. And I'm not just talking old school either. I'm talking the modern Disney. I think they're brilliant business-wise, their acquisition of Lucasfilm, what they've done with Marvel, all that kind of stuff. I love this company. But this was stupid. Casting Johnny Depp as Tonto was stupid. And there are PR attempts to try to spin, oh, Johnny Depp's actually part Native American. He once said in one interview that his great-grandmother was half Native American. That does not make you Native. Vladimir Putin could say, hey, John, you've got 1/74th Russian in you. That doesn't suddenly make me a candidate for a position in the Kremlin. You know, this was just a stupid move. I'm not happy with what they did with it. I still expected better than this, though. Even with my particular problems with them casting Johnny Depp in the role of Tonto, I still thought better than this. Because I didn't think Despicable Me 2, it's not like people were going to choose between Despicable Me 2 and Lone Ranger. They're 2 different demographics that they're clearly going for. So I can't explain the failure of it at this point. But yeah, I got to buy the success of Despicable Me 2, and I buy the failure of Lone Ranger. Amy Rose?
Yeah, I buy these results in the sense of the placement of them, but wow, Despicable Me 2, 142 million. Yeah. That is incredible. Yeah. That is huge. That is a record in itself. And for a film like this, we knew it was going to do well. I mean, animated films really do cross generations. Their parents want to see them, the kids want to see them, and you know, regular adults like us want to see them because they're a lot more geared towards adults in a lot of ways, the humor. So I'm not really surprised at its success, but I am at that number. That number is really, really incredible. The Lone Ranger, Tonto, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is incredible. I had the opportunity of interviewing him, and I did ask him, you know, about these transformative physical characters that he's been doing. And he just said that's the way, you know, acting began with these characters, and like I really get his logic, and I think he's so incredible. Let him dabble with what he wants to dabble with. The problem was the movie itself. The Lone Ranger was exactly what you expect. It's really cheesy. It was really over the top. Visually, it was very, very well done in terms of production. I could tell it was very high quality, but it was just funny when it wasn't supposed to be, and it just fell flat for me, and I definitely, it went even below my expectations. So I think the problem was with that, because Armie Hammer did a great job with what he was given, and I thought
he always does.
He always does. He's a great actor, and I thought Johnny Depp did as well, but the problem was the film itself. It fell flat for me, unfortunately, and got way too cheesy.
The first images of Christian Bale's new film, Out of the Furnace, have hit the web, which you can see here. In the film, Russell, played by Christian Bale, and his younger brother Rodney, played by Casey Affleck, live in the economically depressed Rust Belt and have always dreamed of escaping and finding better lives. But when a cruel twist of fate lands Russell in prison, his brother is lured into one of the most violent and ruthless crime rings in the Northeast, a mistake that will almost cost him everything. Once released, Russell must choose between his own freedom or risk it all to seek justice for his brother. The film also also stars Woody Harrelson, Forrest Whitaker, William Dafoe, and Zoe Saldana, and is set to hit theaters on November 27th. Amy Rose, buy or sell the looks and sounds of Out of the Furnace?
Enthusiastic buy. This sounds so great. And we all know Christian Bale is an incredible actor, from American Psycho to Batman. He's done everything. Newsies, he can sing and dance. He's literally done everything. But Casey Affleck, I think people don't really give him the credit he deserves. He is fantastic. Gone Baby Gone, Good Will Hunting, Ocean's 11, Jesse James. He is such a diverse actor. Obviously, talent runs very deep in the Affleck family, and I love this kind of genre. I'm really, really excited about this movie.
So, let me get this straight. You got Academy Award-winning Christian Bale from The Fighter. You got a two-time Academy Award nominee, Woody Harrelson, who got nominated for The People vs. Larry Flint and The Messenger. You have an Academy Award winner in Forrest Whitaker from Last King of Scotland. You got a two-time Academy Award nominee, Willem Dafoe, for, what's that vampire movie? Shadow of the Vampire, and of course, Platoon. You've got... you got Zoe Saldana, the sci-fi guy. Yeah, of course, this is a buy. Yeah. Absolutely. This sounds great. This kind of gritty Rust Belt kind of stuff. I think this sounds wonderful, and it sounds like really the right type of vehicle for a guy like Christian Bale. Yeah. This is a good fit for me. It's absolutely a buy.
Parks and Recreation star Chris Pratt is known for being the lovable, chubby, big guy in the show. Well, that guy appears to be gone. As many of you know, Pratt was recently cast as the lead character in the upcoming Marvel film Guardians of the Galaxy. Pratt has been busy getting ready for the role and yesterday tweeted out this picture. John, buy or sell the look of Pratt getting ready for Guardians of the Galaxy?
Not only do I buy this, because holy crap. Look, if you're like me and you watch Parks and Recreation, you look at this picture and think, this is the same guy? What? But I also buy the tweet, because if the tweet he put out says, I know this is kind of douchebag of me to put out this tweet, but my brother made me. That's an awesome tweet to put out with a picture. The dude looks awesome. Yeah, you know, Chris Pratt, I think he's wonderful. And he's also doing the lead voice in the upcoming The Lego Movie, which I'm really excited for now too. So yeah, I think he looks great. He says in his tweet, yeah, I just stopped drinking beer. Yeah, I'm sure that's all he did. I don't drink beer, Chris. And I don't look like you look like in that picture. So yeah, for me, absolute buy.
Yes, buy. It's hard to argue that he looks damn good. And I definitely, we both did. Kind of had our hesitation when he was first cast as, Star-Lord.
I still do a little bit.
I still do a little bit, but now he's starting to look in shape, and his attitude, even his facial expression, as douchebaggy as it could be, is kind of right on. So I'm really excited to see how he handles this role.
All right, folks, well, listen, we've reached that part of the show for mailbag. Look, if you've got a topic or a question that you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, every day we take a couple of questions here, but listen, we also do shows on the weekend called AMC Mailbag, where all we do is take questions from the mailbag. So if you don't hear a question answered here, check out AMC Mailbag on the weekends. Maybe we can get to it there. For now, Chris Lee's got a few messages pulled out of the mailbag. So, Chris Lee, what do we have?
To put this first mailbag question into context, this weekend on one of our AMC mailbag shows, John and Amy Rose listed off their most disappointing films of 2013 so far. In response to that, viewer Harry Green writes as this: for me, G.I. Joe has been a huge letdown. Just like Transformers, this 1980s cartoon was a big hit. And to compliment the last film, it was horrible. How in the hell do you kill off Duke? The film should have focused on Duke and his protagonist, Cobra Commander, because the two of them are like Batman versus Joker. I would have liked to have seen part of the story focus on introducing Cobra collecting DNA samples for the past great warriors to bring about Supentor in the third installment.
I 100% agree with you, my friend. Them killing off Duke, spoiler, the movie's been out of theater forever. Them killing off Duke was so stupid. That's twice I've used that word today. It was stupid. It reminded me, I've said this before, it reminded me of that old Transformers, the cartoon Transformers movie from a bunch of years ago. What do they do in the first 5 minutes of the movie? They took all these Transformers that we have grown to love and cherish and collect and killed them all in 5 minutes to make room for the new shiny toys. Now, granted, the movie was still pretty awesome, but I've never, ever forgiven them for that. It still scars me. I'm still scarred. The fact that they killed Duke, and you're right, I mean, on a much, much, much smaller scale, Duke Cobra Commander is Batman to Joker on a much smaller scale, but that's what it is. And them just going, okay, all these guys you loved in the first G.I. Joe movie and Channing Tatum so popular, blah, blah, kill them all. They're all gone. We got to make room for The Rock, you know, and it's never a mistake to make room for The Rock. But they should not have killed off all the guys so quick. They should not have killed off Duke. I completely agree with you. It was dumb. Amy Rose?
I love that. Sure, would we have liked to see a badass showdown of Duke and Cobra Commander? Absolutely. But the thing about this is, A, everything I've read about it is Channing Tatum wanted to get out of this franchise. So they didn't really have a choice. He wanted to get out. If a man like Channing Tatum is going to be in your film at all, you take it because he's one of the biggest stars right now. And if he wants to be killed off, you kill the man off. I'm sorry.
You recast him then.
Oh, you think that wouldn't have pissed people off more?
Sure, but the character is bigger than the actor. I agree.
It's bigger than the actor. I would have liked to see it, but from the studio's perspective, they want Channing however they can get him. So I get it. Back to the whole expectations things. We discussed this yesterday or whatever it was. You know, for a film to be your most disappointing movie of the year, your expectations have to be sky high. We had a lot of great comments in our mailbag show yesterday. My expectations weren't that high for G.I. Joe. I thought it was going to be a mindless, fun, popcorn flick, good action, good-looking people, you know, toys that I grew up with. Like, this is a fun time. But did I think it was going to be a masterpiece? Absolutely not. Gangster Squad, a lot of people were like, you guys were looking forward to that? Oh yeah, great director, incredible ensemble. Film noir is one of my favorite subject matters ever. So my expectations were sky high. After Earth, they were kind of right here. So if you go in thinking a movie is going to be mediocre, and it is mediocre, you're not that disappointed with it. So it all depends on where your expectations were. If Man of Steel sucked, John would have been crying all week. So
would have been terrible.
I would have developed an alcohol problem.
Terrible.
No idea.
So it all depends, you know, and as we've said so many times, film is very, 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 very subjective. So.
Nicholas Castle writes, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Batman not being a good fit in the Justice League movie. I mean, he's the most profitable and popular superhero, so of course they'll have him in the movie. But for an argument, do you think that this movie could kind of tarnish his reputation? I mean, everybody except for Batman in the Justice League is basically God, and reason would dictate that they would be fighting God-like characters. And Batman is only mortal, with his superpower being super rich. So what is he really going to do when everybody else is flying and doing stuff with superpowers? I personally would rather see him get left out of this and save his image, but that's just me.
Nicholas, you have just completely pinpointed the #1 obstacle Warner Brothers now has and will continue to face in putting together a Justice League movie. Because here is your conundrum. On one hand, you absolutely, without question, must have Batman in your Justice League. He is your most profitable franchise. He is your most recognizable character. He, more than any other character, is what's going to draw people into the theaters and put butts in the seats. So your first proposition here is you absolutely must have Batman. The second proposition is what causes the problems. No other character in a Justice League movie has the potential to look goofy and silly than Batman does. You know, the YouTube is filled right now with these cartoon videos that are great of Superman and Batman. They're hanging around having coffee. And it's like, Superman's like, so yeah, I got super speed and super breath. I can fly around the world in 5 seconds. I can do this. I can lift mountains. What can you do? And Batman's like, I have the darkness. You know, and that's basically the epitome of it. When you have Batman in Christopher Nolan's universe, a universe without the supernatural, without magic, without aliens, without any of that stuff, when you have that Batman in that world, Batman is a titan. He's larger than life. He's amazing. But that's why Christopher Nolan always said, I never want to have the supernatural in this universe. I never want to have aliens. I never want to have magic, because it would diminish away from what Batman is. Now remember, some people say, well, in the comics they do this, and in the cartoons they do that. The comics and the cartoons are not the movies. This is a different medium altogether with different sets of rules. And Christopher Nolan knew that, and that's why he handled it so perfectly. Now you take this Batman, and you put him into a team, a dude who's just you and me with a fancy outfit and a batarang. And you put him into a movie now with Superman, Wonder Woman, the Green Lantern, the Martian Manhunter. These people who can lift mountains, who bullets can bounce off of them. You know, you put the Batman into that team. that creates a perspective problem now, because now this Batman, who in the regular world looked like such a titan, looks very small and mousy. So while the Justice League fights crime, does he run and grab the lattes? I mean, I don't really know. I have way too much respect, and I think that's why Christopher Nolan had all this respect for the character to make sure that he got the respect he deserved. How do you do that properly in a live-action Justice League movie? Christopher Nolan knew this was going to be a problem. Warner Brothers knows this is a problem. And if they can pull it off, because you have to have Batman there, and he's got to be the leader. You have to have Batman as the leader of the team. If Warner Brothers pulls off a good Justice League movie with Batman in there and not make it seem like that weird shifted perspective, that is going to be a monumental feat in filmmaking. And we will all have to stand and bow to Warner Brothers if they're able to pull this off. It's a huge task ahead of them. I hope they can pull it off. Amy Rose?
First of all, Nicholas, you're the cutest. You want to help save Batman's image.
His reputation's on the line, Amy Rose.
You're the cutest. And I think that your question was incredibly insightful, and that's true. Why do we think Justice League has been so hard to get off the ground? The thing
One
about,
guy, Batman. Yeah.
And of course they're not going to leave him out. That's their bread and property, bread and butter property. They're not going to leave him out. So it is kind of a difficult thing. And you know, I would personally like to see him kind of lurking more in the shadows, like I'm here if you need me, guys, kind of thing. But it's going to be really difficult, and I think that's what made his Dark Knight trilogy, Nolan's trilogy, so great, is that it did feel very grounded. But Man of Steel felt very grounded as well, and he isn't like an everyday Joe.
Right.
So maybe the intersection of the two could work, and I do think Snyder and Nolan are the guys to do it. They're not the only ones that can do it, but I do think that both of those worlds felt very grounded, and they are in the same universe. So I think that if they take this with the right kind of care and caution, that we could see it happen. But that is the biggest, you pinpointed it perfectly, the biggest trouble that WB is going to face putting these gods in with. But the same could be said about Iron Man.
Yeah.
And he seems to be doing all right as well. So in the right context, I think that they could still show him in all his glory.
Especially with all the really cool toys Batman has. I feel like he can step up and be a part of it and used in a different way.
Super intelligent.
Kenneth Hernandez writes, love the show. You guys are awesome and inspiring. With the box office failure of Prince of Persia, John Carter, and The Lone Ranger, should Disney stop trying to make live action films and just stay with the animated studio? Or should they have a smaller budget for their live action films? What are your thoughts?
I think generally speaking, my opinion, I'm well represented in saying for a very long time, Hollywood needs to start scaling back on how much money they spend on movies. I mean, they're spending too much. Nobody blinks an eye now when a film spends $200 million. It's getting out of hand. They need to find a way to control the costs of making these films. But that being said, out of the way, John Carter, while financially a flop for Disney, I thought was a wonderful sci-fi film. It's the first sci-fi movie I saw. I think you and I both said the same, Rose. It was the first sci-fi film that I saw in a long time that I felt like real sci-fi. This was great sci-fi. Prince of Persia, not so much. Lone Ranger, not so much. But before we get ahead of ourselves and saying, oh my goodness, the live-action movies from Disney just are not making any money, there's this little movie you might have heard of called The Avengers that apparently did pretty well. There was this other little live-action film called Iron Man 3 and Iron Man 2 that did pretty well. They've got this other, it's a little bit more of an obscure title, but it's called Star Wars. You might have heard of it. It's coming out in 2015. Disney is doing just fine. Don't worry about Disney. Captain America, Thor, all these. Disney is doing just fine. My bigger concern would be is if they, we're always putting out crap movies. Yeah. Like I said, we talk about John Carter. Hey, yeah, it flopped. It didn't make the money it needed to make, but it was a great movie. And as long as they continue to make great movies, they will be fine. The upcoming Marvel films will make them lots of money. Star Wars is going to make them ridiculous amounts of UN purchasing money. That's just the way it is. So don't worry about Disney. They'll be fine.
If they acquire Star Trek, they pretty much own the world.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing just fine. Yeah, I agree. We're on the same page with John Carter. I really loved that movie. The problem was with the marketing campaign. You don't like you know, you're not enticed by two giant white apes chasing you. And
it was called John Carter.
It was called John Carter. The first like poster I saw for him, just standing like this, like a badass, was better. But then they changed direction, and that's what happens when, you know, with pacing and all that sometimes. So I really did think the movie is great, and I thought Taylor Kitsch did a really solid job.
I did that. You know, Taylor Kitsch. I know we're going off a rabbit trail.
Yeah.
Taylor Kitsch. I put him and Armie Hammer kind of in the same category. They're both young, really good actors who have just landed in some really battleship type movies.
Oh God.
And they're not getting, and they're getting blamed for it. Guys, keep giving Armie Hammer and Taylor Kitsch a chance.
If you're in a movie with Rihanna, it's done. It is done.
Your battleship is definitely sinking.
It's sinking. But yeah, no, I definitely thought John Carter, you know, and it still made a good amount of money is the thing. It didn't make a lot of money on the huge budget, but it still made a lot of money. So I do think Disney is fine. But, you know, movies like The Lone Ranger and Prince of Persia, we kind of know what to expect. They don't always translate that well. But John Carter was a solid film that deserved more love than it got. So, and their slate's pretty incredible coming up. So I have all the faith in Disney and what they do right.
Yeah, and Avengers by itself will pay for 5 Lone Rangers. Yeah. So they're fine. They're fine. Hey, look, that's all the time we've got today, folks. Thanks so much for joining. Listen, while I've got you, stop what you're doing. Take a second and click on that subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, and of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk show and our weekend AMC Mailbag show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AMC Theaters. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMC Theaters. Listen, if you want an audio-only version of this episode, look down in the description of this video, and you'll see links to our iTunes and our Stitcher Radio, so you can listen to us on the way to work. And listen, want to remind you one more time, Comic-Con is like next week. I cannot believe how soon it is. We are going to be at Comic-Con, 2 big events. Look in the description of this video for more information on what we're doing. But we've got our Masters of the Web panel that we're doing with a horror theme this year. We've got Lionsgate's film, You're Next, joining us for that panel. It's on the Thursday morning. Make sure you come and join us. Information in the description. And also, we got our AMC Movie Talk meet and greet. I'm going to be there. Chris Lee's going to be there. Amy Rose, Dennis. The whole AMC Movie News crew is going to be there. Come and join us Thursday night at 7 p.m. in the bar in the Omni Hotel. We're going to be there from about 7 till about 8:30. Come say hi and have a drink with us. So, I want to thank, of course, our lovely host, Miss Chris Lee Kennedy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Our one and the only Amy Rose Eisenbach.
Thanks, guys.
And most of all, thanks to you guys. Listen, the most important part of the show clearly is not what we have to say, it's what you have to say. Make sure you jump down into the comments section of this video and leave your thoughts on any or all of the topics we raised here today. Agree with us, disagree with us, keep it respectful, but that's the fun part about being a film fan, is having these debates. So jump on down there and leave your thoughts. So until next time, my name's John Campia, and until then, bye-bye.